Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday. It's kind of a blur. We do this almost every day. I'm Richard Carlton. We're here at Live FileMaker Training, fmtraining.tv, where we work every day on learning new FileMaker skills to help make you successful in building your own custom applications. As a reminder, this broadcast is daily at 1 o'clock Pacific time, live from California. And we work really hard to make sure we have interesting content every day. We are streaming in high definition, 1080, both to Twitch and to YouTube. And so you can watch it on either platform. My recommendation is to set the quality as high as you can see it based upon your internet connection and make it full screen. That way when we're showing stuff on screen, looking at scripts, scripts and codes, things like that, you can actually see it, which would be really great. First off, today's broadcast is largely going to be in the beginning and intermediate range level. So today is about record locking. It's how, as you're sharing, collaborating with a FileMaker solution, you're make sure that your users don't run into each other. It also brings up some interesting options for how you build applications and where you might run into user trouble. So it's kind of an interesting conversation. It'll start pretty basic. It'll be more intermediate as we go along, and it could get a little bit advanced along the way if the conversation goes there. So once again, this is a topic that I just know, and so as a result, there's not a lot of prep that goes into this, mostly to answer questions in flight as we go. So once again, today's topic is about record locking. It's decidedly more basic, intermediate. Hopefully Bunny makes it today because she's more of on the brand new person side. And so it would definitely be a good conversation for her. Feel free to ask questions. If their questions are on topic, we'll take them immediately. If they're off topic, I might defer them to a little bit later in the conversation, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that smaller. I do want to recommend that you take a look at our training bundles, or go to fmtraining.tv first, up here, fmtraining.tv. This is everything that has to do with either our live or recorded training. Really appreciate the feedback we get. We do a lot of stuff here that's free, and a lot of times I say, and a lot of you have bought our training. We really appreciate that. If you haven't bought the training or your subscription's expired, I really recommend, and I'm asking you nicely as best I can, to check out. If you go to fmtraining.tv, you can press the bundles button here. This is how you support the channel. It's how we stay on the air and we keep broadcasting, because every day people are buying the training and or they're renewing the training. And if you buy or renew it now, then obviously you're going to get the FileMaker 19 training, which will come out at some point, theoretically this month, if FileMaker ships their product on time. We do anticipate that they will. I was talking to FileMaker yesterday, and they never like to commit the dates and stuff, largely because sometimes they move the dates. But we do expect 19 to ship this month. And so if you're interested in our training and you need FileMaker, you want the complete bundle, it's right here. You just press the button, it'll drill down the page. If you need the video only, like you already have FileMaker Pro, and you want just all the videos, and you want to help support the channel, that's the purchase right there. If you want a coupon for either one of those, send an email to support@RC Consulting and said, Richard said I could get a $50 off coupon. Just say that, and they know what it is, because it happens all the time. Every day people ask for this. So feel free to do that. If you don't watch our live training, then you don't know about the free coupon. The coupon's just for the folks that are watching here live. And of course, if you watch this recorded and you happen to see this and you email support, they will probably still send you the coupon. So feel free to take advantage of this, even if you're not watching us live. Just send an email to support@RC Consulting. In fact, that's a general catch-all email if you want to ask a question or suggestion or whatever you want to do. So appreciate that. So that is the low overhead item. I do have let me see. I got my desktop is a little bit busy. These are all the various demos we've been cooking on and working on, and there's some other things over here. So today is about record locking. Well, we do have Kermit91, Kevin. You just subscribed. Thank you, Kevin. And that means that Kevin will watch us and won't see commercials if he's logged on. Sometimes you'll see commercials on Twitch. You'll suddenly have a Taco Bell commercial or a commercial for some video game or something. So very cool. So we got people on YouTube, and so if you see me playing air traffic controller here, I'm actually having a conversation with you over here, and I'm doing my demo right here, and then you are actually right here. So what is record locking? So we're going to start this off today. So I have a copy of a CRM. This is FM Starting Point. It's our free unlock CRM. I'm just using this because it's as easy as anything else to do. I also need a second client computer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this carefully around the camera here like this. And so this is my iPad, so you will be seeing that on the screen here. If I come over here, we are showing the iPad screen through, whoop, let me close that. We are showing the iPad screen through the QuickTime player. So when I pop this up, of course, it goes to the camera here, and then you're like got double Richard, right? So that's way too much of me. We can change that real easily. You could try to do this wirelessly, but I really, think that's potentially a dangerous idea. So I'm going to change the microphone to that right there, just so we have that. Hopefully, if you guys have any audio issues or weird echoes or problems or whatever, definitely let me know. So I'm going to make this a little smaller. So this is our iPad right here. It's on the iPad layout, okay? But we're on the same record right here. So that makes sense. So we have specific layouts designed for the iPad or mobile tablet size device. And then this is more of our mouse layout. So if you come over here, you click, you'll see we have mouse layouts, and then what we call touch layout. So over here on the other side is the touch layout. So record locking is really nothing more than the idea that if I create if I'm going here to Ryan and say I start editing Ryan, and Ryan was misspelled, he has like 3 N's. The idea is that many people can look at a record at one time. And once again, I'm talking about a shared solution. So we're all sharing the same collaborative solution. Most of the time, it'll be hosted on FileMaker Cloud or FileMaker Server. It is, in this case, working on FileMaker Server. It's a test server that I run in my office. But it could be on cloud. It doesn't matter. It's just whatever I set up. And so multiple people can see the record at one time. In fact, everyone could look at the same data at the same time, but only one person can edit that record. So if I click over on here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move myself down here. I'm going to make myself a little smaller. Move myself over here like that. So there I am, a little smaller. And so I'm editing right here. Now notice I started editing. This record is now locked. This client software here went to the server and says, hey, I want to edit the record, and the server says, okay, looks good, you're cleared. It's like it's like the tower clearing the airplane to take off, right? And so the runway is clear, you're cleared, and you're the only one supposed to be on the runway, right? It's one of those like things in life that's kind of like only one at a time, right? And so, so we clear this person to make the edits. He's cleared to be on the runway, and then so as we start to edit, we're on the runway, and other people can see the record, like over here, we can see it. But if someone else says, hey, I want to be on the runway, then this iPad is going to request permission to be on the runway. I can click over here. Notice I can click in it. Now, this is not committing the record or editing the record. I've clicked in here. I haven't really told the tower yet I want to be on the runway, but I'm kind of leaning that way. But the server doesn't know anything yet. As soon as I press another letter, that's us saying, hey, we want to be on the runway too. I press a button, we get a record lock indicator, which means that someone else is on the runway, you have to wait your turn. We say, okay. And so what it does, it kind of unwinds us and denies us the ability to edit the record. So over here, once again, if I come down here, if you notice the name at the top, I'm going to go ahead and click out. By clicking out into gray space, now if I just tab, it doesn't commit the record. As long as I'm tabbing into fields, I'm still in this commit state. This is really a big difference, that change between FileMaker. For those of you who've been around a long time, FileMaker 6 would frequently do these locks back and forth constantly. Lock, release, lock, release. Right now, we have the record. We have the lock on it. So our computer is on the runway. We have the edit. It's locked out to other people. And so as I tab, right, it keeps that mode going. So we're allowing to make these edits, but it hasn't saved them back to the server yet. To save them back to the server, we have to run a script step that says commit the record. We have to jump to another layout, jump to another record. So anything where we really navigate off the screen, or if you click into empty space where nothing is at, I'm going to click right here, watch up here, because what will happen, it'll save it to the server, and the server says, hey, is anyone else watching this record? Right? And anyone else who's looking at this record will get an update. So it all happens really fast. 1, 2, 3, click. And so it went to the server, it updated it across the internet. And I'm moving my iPad here a little too vigorously. And then the update went out to everyone else who was looking at it. So that is the record commit. So the idea is that multiple people can edit, multiple people can view the record, only one person can initiate the edit by actually clicking into a field and then typing. That makes sense. So if I click over here, notice that still is kind of selected over here. I'm going to bring this back to the front. I'm going to press my finger in here. 1, 2, 3, press it in. And now I've got the record locked over here. I'm pretty sure. I come over here, click in here, and if I try to edit it, oh, I don't have the lock. Okay, hang on. That's because I've highlighted over here, but I haven't edited. So let me put like a character in there. Now I've initiated a change of the data. So the highlight didn't do it. If I come back over here, I tried to edit something. It says iPad number 4 of all my iPads is editing this. So I say OK. And so once again, we're locked out. So this is basically data integrity. FileMaker does this for us totally automatically. There's no scripting in here. If you have a brand new file, a blank file with one field and one record in it, this works. It just works this way. So, so questions up front about that. If you have questions, definitely ask the questions so I can adjust in flight. So once again, then as I tab, it's going to keep the lock going on this machine. So this machine has the record. It's editing the record. This iPad is on the runway on this record. Now, keep in mind that I can be in this record over here, and then I could come up with a new record over here, and I could be editing on Sally over here, which clearly it's doing at this point. I can be back over here. Let me just move that up here. I could be up here. Let me go scroll back to the top, and I could be editing over here. And so it's not that you're locked out of all the records. It's just one user can lock out basically their own record, and other people can lock out other records. The server just keeps track of that automatically. So you could have hundreds of people, literally hundreds of people editing and locking records as long as they don't run into each other at the same time. That's kind of the operative thing about that. So pretty basic stuff. It's automatic. It's a foreign concept for people. So here's where it gets interesting. Because we always talk about performance in the FileMaker platform. And as you build a solution and it's local on your computer, and then you're going to share it with other users, what ends up happening is that you run into two things. One, you have reports that are slow because you're doing unstored calculations and summary fields on a list view and things like that. And so the number one thing you do is run into performance. The second thing you run into is that you have two users that hit the record at the same time. And so one of the things that can happen is that you can have someone who's on here, say they're on over here, and they're editing, and then they go to lunch, and they put it down, they go to lunch. And then they leave that record locked. And there's really no easy way. As dumb as this has been a problem since the beginning. FileMaker has the ability to disconnect someone if they're idle for too long. But to turn it on, it's a little bit of a hack. You have to set a setting on the server. You also have set a setting on the client. You have to do it on two sides. We have a video that talks about doing that, idle lockout. But the idea is that basically we're screwed now until until this person comes back. Now, if they go to sleep, so this is really interesting. So over here, this is kind of an interesting exercise. So this gets into, we're on the James Young record right here. If I come over here on this computer, I can come back to James Young. Now, can I edit? No, it's locked out. So what I want to do is I'm going to change the name over here to something very memorable. Let's call it Fred. So what I'm going to do is go to Fred. It's locked out. Over here, I can't do anything with it, but we're watching it. Now, what if we just sleep this and we shut it off, right? What happens to the iPad then? This is really good exercise. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press my button and sleep this. And what we're going to do is watch over here and see, because if we click in here right now, like if I click in here and I try to edit, it's locked. So at what point does it lock or unlock? And this is, I think, a really good example of this. So I'm going to go ahead and say, I put my iPad down, I'm walking around, I got bored, whatever, and my iPad goes to sleep, right? And so first off, it's asleep, so this screen over here I think is currently dead. It'll probably disconnect at some point. If I click over here and try to edit, so what happens is that the server sees that the client has gone asleep or is unresponsive, and the change was never saved here. And so the server says, okay, you can disregard this over here. I'm just going to it had it locked. You were on the runway, but it's like you pulled on the runway, and then you just drove off in the weeds. You didn't take off. You were there a little bit. You went around circles in your airplane on the runway. Then you just drove off in the weeds, and you're off the runway. The server goes, hey, that guy is a drunk pilot, not paying attention. He went off in the weeds. He walked away. And so I'm going to release the runway to whoever else wants it. Well, the change was never saved here. And so now if I come back, I'm going to wake this back up over here. So I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to attempt to wake it up. Okay, now it wakes up. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to, it's going to want me to put my super secret password in. You ready for this? 1, 2, 3, secret password. Everyone can see my password. Nope, I guess you didn't see it. Now it's attempting to re-log on and go back to the record. But the edit that I was making is gone. Okay, so this is something you run into. It's a more advanced, and I got questions over here. I'm going to go to these questions here real quick. But this is a more advanced problem. So Christian Olson has a customer that hopefully none of you are here, but we have a customer who does a lot of field work, and they've actually put into an application they're reselling. They're selling it to some big companies and stuff. So they've actually taken a solution, built it for themselves, and went, holy crap, no one else has anything as cool as FileMaker, as custom as it is for this vertical market, and we're going to sell it. Well, the problem they were having is that people would sign a signature, and then it wouldn't be in the database. And so we get this call, ring, ring, ring. Hello, Richard or Christian. Hey, the dog ate my homework, right? What do you mean the dog ate your homework? Well, the teacher sent me home, do the work. I did the work. I came back. The work is gone. The dog ate the homework. Well, what happened was that you did the homework on the iPad. You never saved it. Well, there's no save button. FileMaker saves automatically. Most of the time it saves automatically, but there are these little moments where if you do a bunch of stuff and you don't flip a record or flip a layout or do anything, and you just put the iPad down like we just did and it goes to sleep, it ejects all that data. So one of the things we had to do with a customer, especially on the iPad, really specifically, so I just want to sleep again, is to put a big hairy save button on it that they would press, that they would just know to press. That makes sense? And so what would happen is that they would do this, they would do like a signature or something, right? Like I can click in this picture, I can say replace, let's put a signature in there, and we would say, oh, now I've locked it over here, so let me unlock it over, let me unlock it. Okay, try again. Click, replace, not a barcode, I don't want a barcode. Cancel, how do I cancel? Where is the cancel? On the left. So this gets back into that insert from device conversation we're going to have, but I'm just going to do a signature real quick. So the customer would do this signature, they would hit accept, but it's not, unless the script trigger has run, it's not committed. Now, I don't know if there was a script on top of that, but generically, if you just insert into a container, yeah, see, it's inserted container. So notice over here, it looks awful locked, like it's ready to go. It looks over there, it looks like it's saved, whatever. It's not saved. So we actually would put a little button up there that would say, hey, save it. And all the save does is it runs a commit statement. So very important that the iPad users, the mobile device users, see, now I just went to sleep. Oh, this is really good. This is really good. I'm going to click out of here. So remember, we're over here. Oh, not that button. We're over here watching. Now remember, we replaced that image here. It went to sleep. Okay. So the signature never came back. So this is exactly the scenario we would run into. And it's not uncommon. So we come back over here, we wake back. Remember, that's the screen. Now you're not, see, it's black right now over here. You can say, but the QuickTime app, it just remembers the last thing it saw. Now it sees this. I want to log in. I put my password in again. And signature, oh, the signature's still there. So, so it's still trying to say, so the record isn't locked. That's interesting. Okay, so that's a very interesting exercise. This has to do with it remembering where it was at. So if I lock it here, see, now it's locked over here. So okay, so this is really interesting, and this is a really good exercise because this has changed over the years. It was locked, it went to sleep, it came back, it attempted to relock on, and it did. So then if I actually click out up here, it's going to push the change up there and save it to the signature right there. Very cute. So it attempted to reestablish the signature. So let's do it again. Let's do something else. We're going to replace it. And it doesn't matter what I'm going to replace. I'm going to replace with another signature just so everyone doesn't freak out. I'm going to go up and down so you know that it's a totally different signature. I'm going to accept. Now it's in a lock state. I'm going to be over here. I'm going to sleep. the device. I'm hitting the power button. It's going to go to sleep. I'm accelerating that process. I'm going to click over here and edit, and then we're going to unsleep this over here and see what happens. So I'm waking it back up. It says, hey, would you like the password? And we type in our password, and it goes, trying to reinitiate the lock. Oh, it couldn't reinitiate the lock, so it rolls back. It rolls back, and you lose the data. There's the part where the dog ate the homework. So very, very, very important. So record locking is important, especially when devices are sleeping and not sleeping. You want to make sure the users don't lose the data. So question, how to avoid locking when importing data? You can't lock out the user. So generally Christian, and I'm assuming that this is like when you're adding new records, as you add records to a system and you're importing data, like the import command, those are records that the other users don't have yet. So as you import them, you're not running into people. Now, if you're trying to because when you do an import, that's the thing with the import. Most people only use one kind of import. I'm just going to say import from a file. On the desktop, let me find this other file. It doesn't really matter. Yes, I'll authorize it. Okay. So this right here is what I'm talking about. If you're adding records, then you're never going to have a record lock, because as you add them, the other people can try to get in there, but they won't see them until they've already been saved. So your machine it creates a new record on a record by record basis, and it's going to write it and then release it, write it and release it. So it's like planes are just flying on the runway and then taking off almost instantaneously. And so no one can see those at the same time to run into. It's just you can't run into it. Now the update is where maybe Christian is talking about, because if you're updating, then you could update existing records in the system. That's where you do it. When you run this import, it will give you the results, and it'll say so many were done, so many were skipped because it couldn't do them, etc. So you can run into record lock with these right here. Yeah, so you could run into a record lock with these. The import command will skip over it, and it will just skip those records, which if they're really mission critical records could be bad. So you might want to, you might want to think about that, how you'd want to do that if people are going to be in there and blocking the way, but you're not going to run into it on the add command. So in some cases, one can edit records in a script. How? Make sure you're not locked. So okay, so what you want to do is okay, so listen, so you're going to write, so the question is, how do we deal with this with scripts? A lot of scripts are really simple and stupid, and are like not super critical that you check this. However, I knew that you would ask this question, so being the awesome trainer that we are, we worked out the get functions, the get record open state. So there's two ways of doing it. One, you could set the data, and then as soon as you do a set field command or whatever you're going to do to change a record, you could do get last error, and if the error is anything other than 0, because remember, error 0 is no error in FileMaker. If it's 0, then you're good. You could do it that way. Or you could say get record open state right here, and then if it returns a 0, then it's closed, it's committed. 1, it's a new record that has been committed. 2 is a modified record. So what you want to do is you want to see if it's basically opened by someone else. That's the one way of doing it. So you have to check that before you do a bunch of work on the record. If that makes sense. So you could actually just do a set field into the record and see if it fails, and then if it's good, just kind of motor through. But if it's, or you could run with the get record open state. Now, something else to consider real quick. I'm just going to show you this real quick. This is the other one. Every time you save data to a record, FileMaker counts that. And you don't normally see that, but behind the scenes, it's like, okay, you edited it twice, now 3 times, now 4 times, now 5 times. And so if we're over here and I define a field, I'm going to just define a field in contacts. I'm going to say mod count. I'm going to do create a calculation field. I'm going to say change it. I'm going to say change it. And then I'm going to say it's going to be a number field, which is fine. I'm going to say get record modification count. And this is really handy for some more advanced robot-y kind of processes. But what it does, I say okay, and it should be, it has to be unstored. I might not have, let me go back and make sure it's unstored. We want to make sure that every time it displays, it refreshes itself, right? So when you define a calculation that has get functions in it, you need to make sure you go to storage options and you turn the do not store calculation results. It recalculates them every time it needs them, which is great unless you have like a bunch of these on screen and the performance is going to suck, right? Because you remember every time it recalculates, it's doing math and stuff, right? So here we are. So I'm back up here. Over here, you see my little face. If you guys have questions, I'll jump back in a second on that. So down at the bottom, we have record count 10. You see that down there? And so this record, so if I edit this right here and click out, now it's number 11. See that? And if I'm over here on the same record on my iPad, you can't really see. I'm going to go up to the Ryan thing. I'm going to change that out to, I'm just going to change it to Dick. How about Dick? Because some people will call Dick as short for Richard. So we'll do that. We'll save it. And then when I click out down there, see, it went to 12. See that? So it tracks the modifications to a record. Really cool. And you'll have records in the database that are been modified hundreds of times, potentially. Real easy. So other questions over here. TopCat. In some cases, one can edit records in a script. How can, okay, we check to see that you don't have an error there, correct? Ron says, how would we display a message on the record or that layout someone else knows a record is locked? Okay, so here's how this works. So let's cover this. So obviously, when we clicked in, we generated the error. When we lock, say like I click right here. Now remember, clicking into a field or tapping into a field doesn't lock it. It's when you make the first edit. That used to be different in previous versions, like in FileMaker 6. As soon as you clicked in, it would lock it. We clicked in. Even if I copy that, I highlight the data and copy it out. Like I copy it, it hasn't locked over here. I can come back over here. Oop, no, don't do that. Wow, that's really interesting. It went to a website. Done. How about we click on his name right here and Smith, and I can make an edit. Yeah, so once again, highlighting, selecting doesn't lock it. Now, at the point I locked it right here, at the point, I see I'm trying to use the mouse on the iPad, so it's very confusing for me. I'm going to just say done with the keyboard, click out. When you make an edit, your client attempts to initiate the lock with the server. And the server goes, yeah, no one else is on the run where you're good to go. You have it. It doesn't send the notification to other clients. It would be kind of chatty that way. It doesn't do that. The other clients don't know that you've locked it, okay? They don't know at all. Because technically you've locked it, but you haven't edited anything yet. Once you save it, commit the record, then the save goes back to the server. The server says, did you change anything? Ah, you changed some data. Okay, who else is looking at that data right now? Oh, this client over here and this client. So then it pushes out, forcibly pushes updates to those clients, right? So you cannot tell that another person has locked a record, right? I've never seen that done. It kind of works backwards. In order for you to know whether it's locked or not, you have to actually attempt to do a lock yourself and then have it kind of reject. So with scripts, the error capture is real simple. You do get error capture, right? And if it's not, you could trap for the record lock error, which I think is 201 or 301 record lock. It's a record sync lock. It's a 201 or 401 is no records and match the found set. 101 is no related records, so it's a 201 or 301. So, so you can check it with scripting is how you do it. Yeah, so sounds like your supervisor's keeping it. So TopCast says, yeah, supervisor's keeping the record lock, goes to lunch. Yeah. And the only way to really fix it is to eject them off the server or have their machine go to sleep or whatever. Michael says, what happens if I'm updating 1,000 records and the 801st is locked? My scripts continue to go. Okay, so it's whether you have air trapping turned on or not, right? So I have cats knocking things over in here. If you are having a script that's updating, right? And if you're in script workspace over here, so let's just go to script workspace and I'll create a brand new script, right? Just keep it simple, okay? So we'll call it test 1, okay? So up here is our code. I'm going to go down a little bit. If you say set error capture, it's not really whether we're capturing the error, it's whether we're suppressing the error. This is one of those little messages that if you really think about what it does, when you say get last error, get error, you get the error whether this is on or not. What this basically says is capturing or suppressing the dialogue that might go to the user that might stop it. So if you write a script and this is off, error capture is off, and error capture is off by default, then if we're running the Michael script and you get the record 801, he's on Twitch here talking about this, we get to 801, then what will happen is you're going to throw a dialogue to the person, and then they're going to have to resolve that. If you say error capture on, which means it's going to suppress the dialogue to the user, and if you do, like, then you say if, like, say we're doing a bunch of stuff, right? So we're saying we're doing a loop. I don't know if I want to get too far into this. So then down here we say go to record next. Say we're just doing a loop like this. So we go next, and then it would exit after last on. Okay, so then we're doing a set field in here, right? So we'll say set field, and I'm not going to go through all this. So we do the set field here, and we're looping. If you ran this script and it ran into a record lock and error 801, it would skip the record and keep going, and you wouldn't even know it failed because you've captured the error, you've suppressed the error. FileMaker couldn't set it. It also the allow user abort off is the other one, right? So the allow user abort. So allows the user abort, but I don't think that plays in here. I think you could run right through this. The allow user abort is largely where the user can escape, or FileMaker can escape in some situations it can escape. You can turn that on or off. But normally allow user abort is on, so let's just leave that off. But if you suppress the error and then you generate the error, FileMaker is going to keep going to the next record and motor right on through it. If you actually said set error here, and then you said if, and then you said get last error, and if it was, an error would be not equal to 0. That means that something bad happened in here. Then we'd want to, what is our action we're going to take if we run into an error at 801? We have a lock error. What do we want to do? It's up to you to decide that. You're the developer. What is the plan? But if we don't do this, then you would just motor right through it. You'd miss 801 and you keep going. You'd never know. So you got to think about that. How does this work with relationship tables like notes and estimates and stuff? Yeah, so that's a really good, I wanted to verify that because it's a trick the advanced developers will play sometimes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to release this record, and then I'm going to be, am I on the same record? I am on the same record right here. We're going to test this idea about related records. So okay, so let's just say I have a note. Okay, let's see, note over here. Let me do it like this. So we have a note over here. The note on this iPad, let me see if, can I switch it to vertical? That might make more sense for us. And then there's a notes down here. So we're on the note, we see the one note. So if I create a new note on the iPad and I am clicking in the text right here and I'm going to start typing. So I have definitely got a record lock for sure on that note record. Now, since we're accessing it through a relationship, right? Now, when we ran the script, it created the record for us. When we hit the plus button, it created the records, and then that update went to everyone. But now that I'm editing it, we don't see the edits yet, but can we edit on here, right? Can we edit over here, right? If I click on Smith, and can I do that? And what's happened is because I am editing a field through a relationship, it's locking all the records through that sequence. Now, if it's a parent to child, very simple, then this is the parent, or the contact is the parent, the child is the note. It's locked this parent and the child, right? And if I had a child and grandchild, and say you had 5 or 6 hops in a relationship, you would lock each record along the way, okay? If you somehow instead, we went to a card style window and we popped the note up and we were on a this gets a relational diagram anchor buoy, but if we were on a layout that was directly connected and we weren't dipping through relationship to get there, then it wouldn't lock the contact. That makes sense? It's locking the contact because so we're here on this person, we're editing the note. If I go here and I show you the relationships real quick, we're on contacts right here. When we did that, it locked this right here, and then it locked the note, which is one of these two. I don't remember which one it is, doesn't matter. But it would lock this one and would lock that one. Now, if I went to notes directly, say I said I know the contact ID, we ran a script, it jumps over to notes on its own, which would be in for notes. I don't see notes. Miscellaneous, milestones. Somewhere there's got to be notes in here. I don't know where they're exactly at. Assets, payments, audit log, map maker, milestones, tasks, staff, projects, notes. Somewhere there should be notes. I'm not, off the top of my head, this is such an arbitrary example. I have to find the anchor for that. There should be one, there should be a primary for that somewhere. But if you had a table occurrence group and it was just notes, like right here, then there wouldn't be a set of relationships to lock. It would have locked just that one. So if we went to a layout and just it was that one note, that's how you would, I'm waving at the screen, but you can't see me, but it would lock just that one. So that's pretty good. So that's Steven's question. Our Japanese guest, Maku, I guess, did I say that right? I'm just horrible at names. How do you implement a transaction? I want a record lock when I press. I want to, okay. So the easiest way, okay, so, yeah, so it's, okay, so okay, all right. Remember when we started off here, we were saying that's here. Okay, now we've left this area here. We're going into here a little bit. So it's transactional. So what happens is that what you can have a deal. I'm going to say discard the edits. You can have a deal where you're editing, and maybe some of the stuff is being edited, and then you click out, but maybe you're still editing some of it, and you don't really want all the, like say for example, you're editing on your iPad, and then you walk out of range, right? You walk away from your Wi-Fi, or you're in your 4G or 5G or whatever, and you just like went off in the desert, and you've walked out of internet range, and you're making all these edits. You don't want a situation, what you don't want is partially saved records, right? Because you really want either all or nothing. And this is this transactional thing. It's really a whole separate, frankly, very advanced conversation. It's interesting that he asked that question. What I would do from simplicity is I would bring up a layout with global fields on it. I would have you edit the global fields. And then what I would do is that once you went to save or commit those, you would run a script that would write those. Now, technically, the script that could be writing them could be stuck in the middle. I mean, we're getting to the point now where we're trying to transact like at Wells Fargo or the National Treasury or something like that, where data integrity has to be that level of perfect. It's really rare to have a short script like that have a problem. But if, say, for example, that you wrote them in globals, you wrote edits, and like say we're going to edit all these people's names in globals here, and then we want to go ahead and say, so it's like a card style window on here, like around in here, and we're editing these and we say go. The script could run locally, but technically it could be interrupted. What you could do is you could take that global data, put it into a script parameter, and shoot it to the FileMaker server, and this FileMaker server would not be interrupted. If the FileMaker server is interrupted, then the server's crashed, basically. Some part of the server's crashed, so that would be really unusual. There are some pretty advanced tricks. So once again, I'm going to bring up my diagram. So if I'm over here, what I'm about to refer to is on this over here, this side here. There's some advanced tricks where people will edit a bunch of records through a relationship, and then they do one commit, and it snaps and saves all those things simultaneously. That's a Todd Geist, John Sindler, very advanced conversation, really above the pay grade of what we normally do in our training. But the idea is to keep transactional integrity. If it was me and it was simple and I'm training, I would do globals. I would run the script at the client. If there's still concerns that the client might get disconnected in the middle of that script committing it all, then I would tell the server to do it for you. And once you give the server going on it, it's going to finish it or crash and die trying, right? And very rarely does it crash and die. But really, at that point, you've got bigger problems than a lost record. The database is down, and you're going to have to roll to a backup or something, right? So that was really a great question from Maku. If I said that right, I do apologize if I butchered your name. How How can you lock your screen until a field has been filled out? Okay, so this gets back to a video that we did on dynamic. So Sir Deals a Lot 2020, who sounds like it's almost like a Sir Deals a Lot. Sounds like somewhere between a South Park reference and a self-help book. Good question. How do you have someone edit a record or edit something and keep them from doing something else? So I'm going to pop another sample here. I'm going to go ahead and, for the moment, close these out. I don't know that we'll be back to those or not. What I want to do is see free download solutions. What I need is the dynamic. Remember we had a webinar about 3 or 4 weeks ago called Dynamic Layout Control. So this is one way of solving a problem. So what we have right here is we went through a webinar where we were discussing at great length about different ways of controlling the interface, and specifically there were issues with some of the ways of controlling an interface don't work on FileMaker Go or WebDirect. So you got a pop over here, which is basically the idea that you can pop over this. That works pretty good. But what you really want to do is you want to be able to create a second window, right? And so basically you can do a document window. When you pop a document window, notice that I can edit in either window. So that doesn't really do us too much. Then you have a floating window, which I can pop, which allows me, this window stays in the front, but I can still edit both at the same time. What you can do is pop basically a dialog window here. And the dialog window is, it prevents, you can edit here, but you can't come over, I don't know if you can hear the beeping or not. It's modal, the idea of modal. Modal means you're freaking stuck there. You can't go anywhere else. You're just stuck, and you have to finish it, right? And you could kind of combine that for the most part. So then I'm going to close the window. Normally you'd hide all the stuff at the top, right? Like, you hide that, you get rid of that little check, get rid of that, and you force people to finish this, then run the script. It's modal. You're forcing them to do that. If you're doing like the transaction we're talking about, these would be global fields. You'd say go, and then it would go to the regular record, create a new record, and set those in there. Either you do it or the server does it for enhanced integrity. Most people don't need that level of craziness. I'm going to go ahead and close this. If you do a card style window, what it does, it pops it into this, and it can be modal as well. So I'm clicking over here. I can't do anything. I can't hit an escape key and get out of here or a checkbox, but you can use script triggers to keep people from escaping. So all they can do is quit FileMaker. They can force quit FileMaker. They can pull the plug on the computer, pull the cord out of the back, but they can't really do anything else. So that's how you kind of lock them in. Okay, so Sir Deals a Lot 2020 was asking about how to keep people from doing other stuff until you filled it out. We just covered that with a modal dialog, either the card style or these two options right here. It's basically a new document. A new window command, but then you can specify it's a dialog window or a card style. Card style works on all the platforms card style works on Pro real well, works on Go real well, and it's rumored to work on the next version of 5.19. Okay, so anyway, so that's all I can say. Record log. It's a FileMaker question. Okay, not sure. FileMaker question, FileMaker question. Question, Ron said, do you think FileMaker will ever change record locking so it can be displayed by another user so they don't try? Well, okay, so Ron, they don't have to because, okay, so Ron asked a question, well, because what Ron wants to do is come to your screen and actively tell you that the record's being edited so you don't even try. Kind of like, hey, by the way, it's not available. Here's what you would do, Ron, is that you could have a loop in a script on an on-window timer that updates a calculation to see if it's available or not. Because you can run a script to tell if it's available or not, right? I mean, I guess you're trying to tell them not to edit it before they get the dialogue, right? The other thing you could do is you can custom change that dialogue, because what you would do is if I come over here to recent, I open the starting point right here. What you can do is that say that you're going to click in. So what we have is is that if I press a button here and it's locked, we get that user generic situation. You could actually have a script trigger that on clicking on this, the script trigger runs. It checks to see if the record is locked, and then if it fails, then it gives you your own custom message, or it goes somewhere, it does whatever you want it to do. And if it's available, then the script trigger allows you to go through and to go ahead and type into that field. So there's other ways of solving that problem. It's not a problem that's on FileMaker's radar, because with the tools and the capabilities we have, we can solve the problem a different way, if that makes sense. Ron, I have no idea. Does using execute SQL script steps work the same way as set field? No, totally different. Set field, it allows you to write into records. Execute SQL allows you to basically find and read data. So they're totally opposites, right? We have an execute SQL webinar coming up a week. It's Monday and Tuesday, in not next week, but the week after. So we have Calvin Moserman doing 2 days of that. Execute SQL. Execute SQL is not a writing or deleting or editing function. It's a reading, collecting data function. That's all it does. Good question, though. These are all great questions. I love the questions you asked that I know the answers to. So far, I haven't been snagged by anyone yet. That was Steve. Good one on the SQL. I'm going to save Andre. Andre's really awesome, but it's going to get into other stuff if I go down that. It will take us 10 minutes if we go down that road. Maybe we can save that for tomorrow. Andre, are you going to come back tomorrow? We will do get thumbnail and image cuteness tomorrow. How about we do that? Because it's going to get back into things we've covered before, but a lot of you have never seen it. We can crop images in FileMaker with a little bit of add-on demo file that we can give you. It's really super cool. Cropping images. The thumbnail is very limited, right? And so how do we do this thing right here? There's no native function in this right here. This is a Nick Hunter hawk. It's a hawk, and he would say it's not a hawk. But Nick Hunter, if you're there, it's a hawk, and you know it's a hack, right? But it looks cool, so we left it in here. Steven, in terms of record locking. Okay, so, oh, got it, Steve. No, because you're reading data, it shouldn't record lock at all. Okay, watch that be wrong. But my general response would be, so come back in 2 weeks or in 13 days, to a week, 2 weeks from yesterday. We'll be doing the execute SQL. But because it's reading the data, it shouldn't be record lock. You only do a record lock when you're making an edit, right? So, or creating a new record. So, yeah, it shouldn't do that. It should not do it all. If it does, then I don't know. But I'm not the biggest SQL person a fan on the planet, so that's kind of my thing. That's why we'll bring Calvin in to help have that conversation. It'll be really awesome. Kermit 91. Sir, deals a lot other databases don't have the issue because of CRUD. Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. In a lot of other database systems, you have to actually like really manage this record locking stuff. FileMaker does it automatically. I was building in FileMaker solutions for years before I even knew record locking was a thing, because I was self-taught. There wasn't anyone out there doing training back in 1990 like what we do. And so people have tried to do training. Training is really a hard business to be in, video training specifically. If you want to do a classroom setting and then pass everyone some COVID-19 virus, that's great. But and I'll take your Lysol wipes if you're going to do that. But the video training is awesome, especially when you can ask questions and have people interact. But yeah, I mean, you could get a long ways in FileMaker without really knowing all the moving pieces, because FileMaker abstracts some of the technical, geeky nerd stuff. I want to say it's an old term, but it's that you don't have to know about. I mean, it just handles it. If you get a record that says Fred's editing it, then you pretty much know that Fred, hey, and you like call Fred, hey, Fred, like go save the record so I can work on the thing, right? So people yelling across the office or sending instant messages to each other telling them to save the record. You kind of solve the problem yourself, but we're getting into it, explaining it so you understand the depth of it. Nothing was said. Candido Thomas, what's the easiest way to avoid changes on fields on a layout based on one status field? You can do You could do, okay, so we have 2 videos that talk about this. I hate to do this to you folks, but if you have the training, we have a video where we specifically talk about this scenario. The scenario is one where, say you have sales reps, and if you have like more than one sales rep and they're in any way competitive, and they say you put a bonus in for the top sales rep, it's not unheard of to have one sales rep try to torpedo the other one to make sure they win the award. That's kind of how that business works. And the more money that's involved, the more desperate they'll get to do that. And so what you would do is if you had a database, say you had a contact database or accounts database, table, whatever, and you wanted like this rep to work on the Western United States and this rep to work on the Eastern United States or by city or by state, you can do record level security where a rep could see everything, but maybe they can only edit certain things. You're going to do that through the file, manage, and security. We have 2 videos that talk about that. Do a search on our 18 training for record level security and layout level security. And we go through this and talk about setting up the privileges and setting things up and getting that going. So yeah, so it's a totally a separate conversation. Nothing I can fit in 60 seconds. So, but I have the answer. I've already shot the video. It's even animated for you, and you walk you through it. So technically, I could probably find it if you wanted the exact. I have a button that hides everything on my desktop. So individual courses. If we went to the 18 course, and I go up here at the top and I say record. Let's just say security. It's just like a keyword search. You hit return. So security, accounts privileges, encryption at rest, audit trails, security, record level security layout. Okay, so video 1214, 1215. You need to watch these 2 right here. 1214, 1215. That's how you kind of secure. Not only do you secure the record, you don't let it to be edited, or you cannot have it be seen based upon the criteria of that person. That makes sense? Technically, if you wanted to, you could actually hide. I mean, I guess we could have a session on that. But you could hide objects on a layout based upon the situation. It's not really super secure. It's more of a managing a workflow. Say that, for example, you're in starting point here, and you're on an invoice, and you're doing all this stuff, and then it's paid, and you want to lock it down, or you want to keep someone from editing something, based upon a like say, for example. You can't add line number after a certain condition, right? Okay, it's already got to add, it's got to see the little eyeball right there. It means it'll hide itself based upon certain conditions. If I come over here to the layout mode, I go to the data tab. I come down here, hide object when. It's going to say the calculations, hide it when we've committed the invoice or we're in find mode or something like that. So there's times where you can hide an object on screen. It's not super secure like hacker proof. It's just kind of like a way of guiding and flowing people, like hide this if this is there and show this if this is there, and that kind of conversation. The 2 videos I gave you are about how to really lock it down if you have 2 people who want to hose each other and there's money on the table, right? You want to really lock them out, or so they can't figure out how to get around it. Because the hiding thing, it just helps the workflow. Technically, someone who's really clever can find a way around that and to put the data in, right? It doesn't mean it's secure against a devious person. It's just a workflow management tool, if that makes sense. How do you know when a record user is updating a record? You click on it, and you, this is from David. I guess we're recapping earlier in the video. When you want to find out if a record, I mean, I'm assuming it's a script, because if you're editing the record at the same time, you're going to get the message. Once again, we're on this person. We'll go to contacts right here. If I'm in the QuickTime player, actually, you know, I can just say new movie recording right here. Go back over here to the iPad. I'm going to make it vertical so it's a little bit easier to see. So if I'm over here, if I'm, I try to click it. If I go ahead and I start editing here, I'm over, and then this user is over here. They click over here. Clicking in doesn't check. As soon as you try to do an edit, it's going to check the server, see if it's available. You can script that behavior too. Once again, you get error. You try to do a set field into the record if you want, and you see if you get an error 0 or not, and that's how you test it. Alternatively, you can do a get record state. This will tell you, if you run this script step, you go to the record, you say get record state, and it'll, you're looking for a 0 basically, right? So you're looking for a 0, and that tells you the record is free. So that's for David, who have it locked. How do you know that users updating? Yeah, if we want to rephrase the question, I mean, we kind of covered that earlier. That was Ron was having a challenge with that. Ron was asking for proactive notification that a record was busy. So if you happen to be on this screen right here and you're not editing yet, Ron was asking, well, how do you just like proactively tell the person, don't bother editing because this one's busy? FileMaker doesn't work that way. You have to actually attempt to edit it or run a script or do something in order to generate a check to the server. So you generate the check, it comes back as available or not available. It doesn't just spontaneously throw that at you. If it did that, it would be a lot more network traffic. Imagine every time someone edit a record, then it has to transmit to all 20 or 50 or 100 people. Oh, by the way, Fred's trying to edit the record. Oh, no, Sally's trying to edit a record. Right? And so suddenly that idea is really horrible. That's what FileMaker 6 used to do. It performance sucked. And so FileMaker doesn't do mindless server check. Because remember, every time we do something, there has to be a conversation with the server and the client. And you don't want them going bonkers, right? Like they're on coke or something, meth head, running wild, right? You want it to only communicate when we need to. That way, when it really needs to move data, like you're doing a find or a sort or something, you get the maximum performance. So you have to reach out and touch the server and say, hey, is it available? And from that, you can make a determination whether it's a script or the user does it themselves. That's the way it works. Otherwise, the design would result in very bad performance. FileMaker, if that was the world that we lived in for Dave and Ron, then FileMaker would say, yeah, we got this FileMaker server. It's like, super expensive. We can only have 20 users use it maximum because it's so chatty back and forth that we can't have more than 20 people. See, that's the thing, right? So they're design trade-offs that are made to maximize performance. So anyway, I just watched myself losing my mind online here. So it's a delayed response. So questions, anyone? I'll check my video course library. Candido, awesome. All right, tomorrow's going to be Andre Day. I'm going to go and wrap this up here. If you have additional record locking questions, we can bring this up. But tomorrow is going to be, we'll kind of do like an impromptu Andre Day with sample files. And I'm sure he'll want to tell me how bad I'm screwing up his demos. So he'll have to be very patient with me. They're not my demo files. We're to simply walk through some ideas that he has about things. Like at least a couple. The couple are pretty interesting. But Andre is like a deep into the pool guy. So if we do our diagram one more time here, that's me there, and then that's me over here, and then Andre is like over here somewhere, like in this like extreme ninja level. That's over here. So that's him. So anyway, cool. Well, we have all sorts of people here. We're welcome you. Welcome to fmtraining.tv. Once again, reminder to keep your subscription up to date if you have one. You can check the upcoming schedule by going here to fmtraining.tv, pressing the live tab right here. You can see the upcoming schedule for the next 6 days. The Execute SQL is the Monday after this. So Thursday, Friday, the following Monday and Tuesday are the Execute SQL conversation with Calvin Moseman. We'll be back once again. And then next week is going to be all Nick all the time, which will be a while. If you've seen me and Nick go back and forth, it's a lot of fun. And then once again, reminder that if you want to support the channel, feel free to make sure you have our training and make sure it's current and up to date. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you want a coupon, you want a good deal on your training, you need coaching help, whatever you need, just send an email to support@RC Consulting, and our tech support team and our coaches are monitoring that, and they will be happy to reply to you. Once again, welcome to some new people there. Maku from Japan. It's early in the morning. Awesome. Ron, MailSoft, Dave, all the people here, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm glad you're here, and we'll catch you tomorrow.
guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected, the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap. Stands in, throws it left for Amendola. Reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10. Rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.